everybody. My name is Marjorie Hopkins. I'm a mentee, and this is my mentor, Lena Roy. And the title of our piece is The How-To Guide for Inhabiting Two-Legged Animals.
And this story came about through our favorite writing exercise, which we do every week, called Hot Notebook. We start with a prompt, and then we write for 5 minutes, switching back and forth. And this one, Marjorie started.
Okay, so here goes. She opened the door and stood in the dark hallway, squinting, as if turning her eyes to mere slits would somehow improve her vision. Humans. A ghost of a smirk made its way to my almost lips as I hovered against the wall, sinking into the shadows and drinking in her every move. I had been waiting for a human for too long, yearning for the physical boundary of a two-legged animal. But she stayed standing, frozen. Come inside, dear.
As if she heard my thoughts, she took a step. That's right. Now close the door. Shut out the light. We need darkness. She had stepped in, but the door remained open.
I let out an impatient sigh, releasing my exasperation into the stale hallway air. I froze. Had I made any noise? Did you hear my wind? Could you smell my breath? The girl bit her lip.
Hello? She finally spoke. I dared not to take in another breath. Is anyone there? Her other foot clunked forward, and the door swung shut behind her. I relaxed.
I had her now. At least, according to the how-to guide for inhabiting two-legged animals, I should. You should know this was my first time.
Rule number 10. Optimum conditions for host entry entail darkness and closed doors, sealing you in together with your host.
Funny word, host. It implies that these beings are willing, wanting you to come on in and stay a while. But who knew? Maybe mine would be grateful after all. For too long I had been trapped in the ether, dodging in and out of cats, mice, flies, gnats, you name it. I had watched her for the past couple of days, a 14-year-old girl, pale and thin with a penchant for libraries and for living other people's lives. Wasn't that the truth about the world of books? I followed her home last night and slipped through a crack in the window.
Rule number 1. When it comes to humans, you have to live in a host abode for 24 hours before you can live in their bodies. Otherwise, the transformation doesn't take.
She crept down the hallway to her mother's room and opened the door. Her mother was lost in depression. My girl, vulnerable, scared. She needs me just as much as I need her.
I heard her murmur. A low, husky, raspy voice croaked in response. Another few minutes and the girl was tiptoeing back into the hallway, tears glistening in her eyes. It was time. I sprang towards the girl as if I had arms to pull her into a comforting embrace. She yelped in surprise at the sudden sensation. It was working.
I was inside and we were falling backwards, her head cracking on the floor. She was unconscious as I settled into the left temporal lobe. Left temporal lobe? That was a mistake. That controlled memory. I should have been in the frontal lobe. I would be overwhelmed.
Rule number 15, do not enter back of head. How did I get there? I struggled to move, but the memories were taking over.
Her entire life circled around my head, grainy and clear images floating before my eyes in a whirlwind of memory. Different faces, emotions, songs, lives. I met her mother before the devastation of mental illness. I lived through the characters in her books. I saw her family, her relatives. I fell off a bike when I was 3. I dropped an ice cream cone at the county fair. I became shy, reserved, unnoticeable, unhappy.
And suddenly, I was back in the darkened hallway, lying against the wooden floor, brown hair splayed across my face.
I exhaled slowly, face rearranging itself in an expression of pure shock. Human emotions were always very draining, according to the guidebook. Memories, images, it was never something a spirit could expect. And being solid, that was also an adjustment.
Everything was purely mechanical from there. Breathe in, breathe out. Remember how to balance, stretch muscles, and don't try to walk through walls.
Is somebody there? She whispered. Was she talking? That was not supposed to happen. Hosts and widgets weren't supposed to interact. I'm in the wrong part of the brain. Again. Is somebody there? Oh, hell.
Right here, I answer.
Where?
Inside your head? I wince, and she winces too.
I'm losing my mind, aren't I? She muttered. Then, how did you get there? Here. I am crazy, aren't I? It doesn't matter. Are you good or bad?
The philosophy of the guidebook leapt to mind. There is no such thing, I recited. It depends on your perspective.